Hi. Some of you who watch my videos on retirement might be wondering, what's that guy up to now? He's talked about meditation, he's talked about all sorts of things which don't particularly have anything to do with retirement. So what's he going to talk about now? Well, what I'm going to talk about now might surprise you. I am what they call, commonly, in esoteric terms, a channeler. What is a channeler? A channeler is a person who can take down spiritual messages. Now, I know this sounds exaggerated, but I took to a thing called automatic writing. I deliberately chose to learn about it and to practice it until I became proficient at it. I discovered this way back in the late 1960s. And after a while, around about 5 years of practice, I wrote my first book on the subject. Here's the book. Recognise the younger me? That was the first book. I wrote that. Some years later, I wrote some more. Inner Quest, Our Search for Happiness. Finger in the Stream, Conversations with a Higher Self. Divine Dialogue, How to Record a Conversation with God. And my last one on this subject, Where Are You Me? Now you might be thinking to yourself, wow, what's that all about? Well, I'd just like to tell you, one of the reasons I probably have my particular philosophy of life, which is not a unique one, it is that we are spiritual beings enjoying a earth-time experience, and that we all have access to higher realms, if I might put it that way, if we are willing to look into it, if we're willing to keep an open mind. Up till about 30 years of age, I used to think it was all rubbish. I had no interest in religion. I thought that when we died, that was it. And then, of course, a series of things happened, and I was introduced to a book, actually, on theosophy, written by a couple called the Laytons. Somebody gave me that book to read, and it put a completely new perspective on my life. And of course then I became what you would call a seeker after the truth of what we are. And I've spent a lot of my life endeavouring to find that out. When I was in my mid-30s, I had an epiphany. Now, an epiphany is a word you often use bandied around, but an epiphany is really a God realization. It's a finding out who and what you are, even if it was only momentarily. And this is what happened to me. 10 seconds of realization of what I really am. And as a consequence, what you really are too. All of us human beings are far, far greater than our minds and our conditioning allow us to be, for the most part. Don't ever think for a moment it's all nonsense and that we're not spiritual beings. It will make a great deal of difference to your life, all through your life, particularly in retirement, when you see the body wearing down, the faculties of the mind slowing down and so forth. Knowing what you really are will make a great deal of difference in your happiness. Now, I'm not saying that you can become a psychic unless you want to become one. But remember, most people who are sensitive, people like poets, people who write stories and so forth, are usually very well placed to develop their psychic abilities as well. Maybe you want to do that, maybe you don't. Point I'm making here is, if you want a long, happy retirement, you have to believe that you are more than just a bag of bones in skin, waiting to drop off the peg and go into nothingness. If you believe that you are a spiritual being, it will make all the difference in the years that lay ahead of you, right up until the body gives out, the mind gives out, and our soul goes back or moves up or changes into another dimension.